and welcome to the Taking L's podcast. You made it back another week. Thank you so much for taking time, 30 to 40 to 50 minutes, however long we go.
Never know.
You never know. Thank you for taking time to listen to us, to hang out with us. If you are new here, this is a space and a place where we laugh at ourselves as we talk about life.
Yep.
And so whenever we're done with this conversation today, we kind of have a couple goals. We want you obviously to laugh with us, laugh at us. Also, we want you to walk away with just really an inspiration to live life to the fullest, and also with the idea that there is a leader inside of you, and that you are capable of being a fantastic leader today.
And these conversations really for us, it comes from a place of we're learning, we're growing. We are in our late 20s. We have not arrived by any measure of however you measure arrival. I don't know how you measure it, but we have.
We are not there. I turned 30 in October, and I'm throwing a banger. Just throwing that out there.
Can't wait. Maybe we'll invite the Taking L's community.
You get it. We'll do a live pod for my 30th.
That would be fun.
Probably not.
Is this an announcement?
No.
Carly! Can she hear us from down here?
Yeah, she can hear us.
Okay, great. But if you haven't listened before, part of this is we're just journeying through life as two guys learning a lot about life, but we're passionate about life and making the most of it. So we just have these conversations on our own.
Yep.
So we decided, hey, let's record it. And if you are listening, you are somewhere on a podcast network, on YouTube, and we're so grateful you'd listen. Hey, take a moment, subscribe, leave us a rating, leave us a comment if you got some time. And maybe even if you like this conversation enough, and today's conversation for us is going to be very important, feel free to even share it, send it to someone, tag us on social media. I think that's kind of all the bases covered.
And if you're watching on YouTube, my outfit looks dope today. So there's that.
I love that flannel. Great flannel.
We FaceTimed earlier today, and immediately you called out the fact that the last 4 times you've seen me, which is essentially the past 4 days, I've had this flannel on.
I wasn't going to say it on the pod. You kind of just said it to yourself. I was being nice.
L of the week, I've worn the same flannel for 4 days.
Just getting right in.
Just getting right into it. Hey, we usually start with a fun segment. Again, you've heard me say the word laugh probably like 6 times already in the 2 minutes we've been talking. Laughing is really important to us. Making this a fun time, a fun thing for you to listen to is very important to us. But today we actually want to get right into the conversation. We want to jump right into it. And we knew that when we started this Taking L's podcast, we knew that the conversation of race and diversity was going to be a pretty big part of it.
For sure.
We did not know that us starting the podcast in the time that we did, that it would be the thing literally surrounding our world.
For sure.
Being, Dylan, you being a white guy, myself being a black guy, obviously these conversations you and I have been having for literally 6 years with one another, of my black experience, your white experience, how we can learn from each other, how we can grow from each other. And today we just wanted to really hop into the conversation that is happening in our world right now.
Yeah.
And if you are aware of it or not, our country, America, is at war over the idea of, do Black Lives Matter? And so we just wanted to jump straight into the conversation today. It would be almost impossible for us to not record a podcast on this topic. It is literally, it's overtaken every, bless you, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It has overtaken every single area of life.
Yeah.
Social media. If you get on social media and you don't see posts about what's going on in our country right now, I would challenge you to maybe enlarge who you follow.
Absolutely.
Because for me, I can't get on Twitter. I can't get on Instagram. I literally cannot get on a thing without seeing either videos of protests, tweets about what's happening right now, just anything regarding literally the movement of Black Lives Matter. And so today we want to jump in and have really the conversation of, do Black Lives Matter? Kind of just have a public conversation around all of what's happening with you.
Absolutely. And if we could even shape this and say this as we start this conversation, for some reason, and we'll kind of get into this, for some reason, that terms Black Lives Matter has become polarizing to some people, and they instantly even shut down the conversation, turn it off, tune down how much they're actually paying attention.
Yep.
If for some reason you feel like you are inclining to do that even right now, can I just encourage you to maybe listen a little bit longer?
Yeah.
And and
if I can even, obviously the title of this podcast is going to be Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
So even if you were hesitant to click into it,
Yeah.
and the fact that you are listening right now and you were someone that didn't want to hear this conversation again, or
Yeah.
you wanted to ignore it or kind of just skip over, it's another thing that's talking about this, and you are still listening to my voice, can I just even say thank you?
For sure.
And even just kind of congratulate you for doing exactly what we need you and we need our whole country to be doing, which is just being able to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations.
Absolutely. So going into this conversation, Braylon, one of the things that me and you talked about is this idea of talking about why is this such a big deal for us to emphasize right now?
Yep.
And then also talking about where can we go next?
Yeah.
And I think for everyone listening, for us to even have a reminder right now of why this is such a big deal is so important. Why is right now such an important time in history? Not like necessarily just why is our Black lives a big deal? I think we should emphasize that, but why is even right now such a big deal? Would you even speak to that?
Yeah, this moment reminds me of obviously it's a major moment, and I don't know if you've seen that tweet, and it's kind of corny, but it's like, if you ever wondered what you do during the civil rights movement, if you ever wondered what you do during Nazi Germany, like if you ever wondered what you do during, you name a crazy time in history, like whatever you are doing now, that's what you would have done then. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of corny, but it's like we have a major moment that's happening in our country right now.
Yeah.
And I am having the conversation with everyone around me of, hey, let's not miss this moment. It reminds me when I first got married. Going into marriage, I was not very good with finances. I've gotten a lot better at finances, but saving,
way better.
I was not a saver at all. I thought living paycheck to paycheck was just what you do. So I got married, and Carly and I, for like the first 6 months, we would like fight about finances all the time. It was just a tension point for us. I wasn't really getting this idea of saving. She wanted to save more. She wanted me to care a lot more about finances. And about 6 months into our marriage, our car broke down. We're a one-car family. Shout out to one-car families. Like, I don't know where I was going with that. But our car broke down, and it was a massive expense. And that caused a lot of tension in our relationship. And it forced us to have some conversations that we needed to have. And not only did it force us to have conversations, but it forced us as a couple, in particular me, to literally change how we did finances for our marriage. And from that moment on, our marriage was never the same because of the moment that happened that caused us to change how I viewed money, how I actually budgeted. I actually got a budget, all because of that moment. My marriage is better today, 5 years later, because of that extreme month that we had where we literally went at it almost every night, it felt like, because it was so stressful. I feel like as a country, that's a long analogy, but I feel like as a country, we are in a moment just like that right now, where things are being caused to come to the surface like never before. And people are having conversations like they've never had. Black people are dealing with things and facing things that I think they may be suppressed and pushed down for years and years and years. I know I am stepping into, this is a term I like to use, but I think I'm stepping into a level of my blackness that I've never stepped into before, in a good way, in a proud way. I am finding just more beauty and honor in my skin color and my history and my background than ever before. I think white people are having really hard, necessary conversations as things are coming to the surface that we are, as a nation, forcing everyone to deal with. It is not okay right now in our country to be neutral.
Yep.
It is, if you're a company and you haven't made a statement yet, that's almost worse than you making a statement saying we don't like black people.
Yeah.
Like it is just neutrality.
Neutrality.
Thank you. I added a syllable. Neutrality is not acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that we're at that point in 2020. I love that in America, we have finally made it to where neutrality is not okay. You have to pick a side like never before, and things are coming to the surface and we're dealing with them like we've never dealt with them.
That's so good. For maybe people listening that and even for me too,
Yeah.
that maybe wouldn't even understand the depths of something you just said. You just said that even right now, this has caused me in like a proud way to, hopefully I can say this term correctly, but to embrace your blackness.
Absolutely.
And can you maybe even speak, when I think of Black Lives Matter, I think of unarmed black men and women being killed in America. But I think there's so many people that forget that it's so much bigger than that.
Totally.
I think we forget how many black people that live in America have had to maybe change their lifestyle, alter this, alter that, just to fit something, just to get a job, just to do all these different things.
Yeah.
And we have forgotten how, in a lot of ways, we have forced certain groups of people. When I say we, I'm going to say white America.
Yeah.
Because white America really represents a lot of the leadership within America. Have forced people of different skin colors to adapt, and that's why I think when it comes to Black Lives Matter, there's such a bigger picture there, than what most people realize. And would you maybe even speak to what you said? Because have you felt like at times, or for a long time, or maybe for a portion of your life, that you've had to suppress the blackness even in yourself? If that, I don't know if I phrased that right. If I phrase that wrong and someone's listening like, bro, you can't say that, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to learn, and I'm even asking you as a friend.
Yeah. Well, I'm the one you're having the conversation with, and I think you worded that fantastically.
Great.
Yeah, I've definitely had to. I have a unique journey of having a white mom growing up in more suburban type atmospheres. So I've definitely had to suppress my blackness. Or even go on a journey of really embracing it and knowing that that's who I am and that that's okay. But as an adult male, kind of as I've been on that journey, there's been so many times where I've had to suppress my blackness to fit in, to make people comfortable, to even be liked or to be welcomed. I have found myself multiple times being like, that's not who I really, leaving parties and things. I'm like, that's not. I just felt like I just played that so safe. Like I just suppressed who I really was so that I could fit in these moments. And I'm over that. I was talking with a mutual friend of ours the other day, and we were FaceTiming, and he's just like, I'm over like checking boxes. I'm over being tokens. Like I'm just over fitting in. And him and I have been talking a lot, and we've had some really challenging conversations and cried. And this conversation, we just needed a laugh. And I was like, you know what, bro? I was like, hey, a couple years ago, the like beautifully well-spoken black guy was popular. That was in vogue. Like the poetic speaking black person a couple years ago, I would say, was like the thing that we all wanted and all needed. Right now, I feel like what's in vogue is like the angry black guy, the angry black person. And I say that because our conversations have to match the atmosphere. The atmosphere of our country right now is angry. The atmosphere of our country right now is the most intense we've ever seen it when it comes to the conversation of Black Lives Matter. So our conversations that we are having inside of our houses need to match the atmosphere that's happening within our cities. Yeah. And so we can no longer have comfortable conversations, or we can no longer just try to be beautiful and poetic so that white people get it, and think that that's going to do the trick. No, our country is at a new level. Our conversation needs to go to a new level. Our country are doing things that are bold and are aggressive. So when I'm talking to people, I now need to be bold and aggressive. And my tone needs to match what's happening in my country.
Yeah, and
I don't know if that was at all what you wanted me
and it totally
to speak to.
Well, no, it answered the question. Essentially what you're saying and correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that there's certain times that in order for you to be invited or to sit at a table, metaphorically,
Yeah.
you would have to I don't even know if I'd say correct. I would say change or adapt the way that you act so that you could be invited or sit at that table.
Yeah, adapt is a great word for that. And something I wanted to speak to as well is we do this thing when we talk about Black people in Black America that I'm picking up on, and that I do it. And I kind of want to help us stop that, is when we speak to Black America, we make them all the same. Or we hear a Black person's perspective and think that they're speaking for Black America.
That's great.
I am just one, matter of fact, I'm a half Black guy.
Yeah.
So I'm just one perspective. I am one. Now, do some of our perspectives match? Absolutely. Have we had similar experiences? Have I gone through some extreme police brutality in my life for no reason, just because of the color of my skin? Yes, I have. And we can share those stories later. So a lot of our perspectives, our experiences, they match. But one Black person is not speaking for all of Black America.
Yeah.
Like when you talk about white women, you don't all think they vote the same.
Yeah.
You don't all think they have the same perspective. So then why do we do that, I think, with Black America? Why are we doing that right now? It's like you hear one Black person talk and you think, well, this one Black person I talked to, they said that they're kind of overwhelmed by how much people are reaching out to them and they don't want to text back to people, or they think it's a white guilt thing. So they're over those texts.
Yeah.
Well, that means all Black people feel this way. That is not true at all. And how different Black people are processing this, that's an individual thing. That is not a Black America thing. So let's maybe just take the blanket away for a second. And I even say that as we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
I by no means am speaking for Black America. I am not that qualified and I am not that Black, just to be honest. So I just want us to kind of think that way, because I think it's so easy in these times to just kind of blanket the Black perspective.
Absolutely. And I think in the same way, too, I would say, like, I don't think I speak for every single white person in America either.
And that's the thing, is no one expects you to.
Totally.
No one expects you to speak on behalf of every white guy in America.
Wow.
But when I'm called into work meetings and they're like, tell us about the Black perspective, they want me to speak to every Black person in America.
Wow.
Or if you see someone on Twitter or Instagram, or some people think that Sean King's voice is the voice of Black America. Like, we just have this weird expectation that we don't put on white people, that we put on Black people, that they're speaking for Black America.
Bro, that's so good. I don't know if we plan to get on this, but someone said something to me last week and I was like, oh my God, like, I've done that. And now I feel terrible of like, why do we, I think there's a lot of non-Black people in America.
This wasn't intended to be a Q&A, by the way. I'm sorry.
No. There's a lot of like non-Black people in America going like, okay, I need to change the way that I fight for Black lives in America.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, one of the responses to that is by going to the Black person that you know.
Yep.
And going like, hey, what can I do? And I have been super guilty of that. I've done that with you. And I am sorry for,
because what I need is different than what other Black people need in these moments, or vice versa.
Totally. But at the same time, like for me, how many times, and this was someone spoke to this past week that like just so stood out to me, was how many times have I come to you asking, what can I do, before I've even done my own research, before I've maybe even read a book, before I've maybe read an article, before I've listened to a podcast, before I've looked at different laws, before I've done kind of my own research, before going to somebody and failing to recognize, like, you do realize when you ask that question, in a lot of ways, you are just picking at a scab.
So let me ask this question. And if you haven't picked up on it, we absolutely believe Black Lives Matter. And I hope that when you hear me say that, you don't think politics. I hope you don't even connect it to necessarily a website or a Black Lives Matter movement or a Black Lives Matter foundation. When we say Black Lives Matter, we're just making the statement that human beings who are Black, they matter.
Absolutely.
And it has made so many people uncomfortable. And you may be listening today and you have maybe even gotten uncomfortable with that statement. We are not saying Black Lives Matter more We are not saying black lives are better. We are just acknowledging the fact that they matter. And our country has treated black lives less than. We have policies that say black lives don't matter. We have legitimate laws that say black lives don't matter. How police treat black lives show us via video footage that they do not matter.
And by the way, via statistics too. There are some people out there that would be like, oh, well, just because you catch 5 things on video over the past year doesn't mean that. No, actually, if you go look at the statistic, the trends are more alarming. Obviously, the videos are visual.
Yeah.
The trends are alarming.
Yep. Can I say this as well, since you're kind of getting me fired up right now? Then I'm going to ask you my question.
That was the goal of this.
And then I'm going to stop talking. But right now in 2020, I would hope that everybody over these past couple of months, I hope that our perspective of racism has broadened.
Yeah.
And if we are still thinking that racism is the N-word or a burnt cross or a white cloth or a hanging or slavery or cotton picking,
Dear Lord,
I would ask you right now to broaden your horizon of what racism is. And what I'm seeing right now in 2020 is racism is coming out in the form of deflection. And the biggest one being the deflection of all lives matter. Because at this point, when you use the term all lives matter, you are not speaking to, hey, let's care about everybody. You are deflecting the value and the care of a nation that's trying to be put on black lives, which is where the care and the value of our nation needs to be. And you are just trying to deflect it onto anything else.
Yep. By
saying blue lives matter. What about this? What about abortion? All these things. Yeah. And I'm sorry to get serious, but like, deflection right now is racism. If you are deflecting the love that we are trying to show an entire community and putting it onto other things that, quite frankly, are not the main thing that needs care right now, that is racism. If you're going to throw stats at me to deflect the fact that the black community in America is hurting to the point that there's over 500,000 people protesting in the U.S. in this past week. I Googled that. That's a real stat. Like, people are hurting and people are doing something to say, hey, we need to show that this people group matters. So if you want to throw a stat to deflect that, in my opinion, in 2020 is racism.
So what are we going to do to make sure that this really matters? Like, if I am really going to stand for this, if I'm really going to say Black Lives Matter to me, some things need to pivot, some things need to change in my life. How I spend my finances, it needs to start reflecting that this really matters to me. If how I spend my time needs to start to show in my schedule that this matters to me. Even my words, my voice needs to reflect that this matters to me. And by the way, my voice is not just the conversations that I'm having. My voice is bigger than this podcast. My voice is things that I'm saying in social media. My voice is also the petitions I'm signing. My voice is also the things that I'm voting on. I hope that we all recognize that our voice is way bigger than we realize. And do you know what's awesome about voices is voices are louder when they're unified and they're together. And is what's making such a big difference right now is that voices are not just standing alone, but it's voices standing together. And do you know what has happened in the past is the voice of the Black community has been on its own, and it is no longer time anymore for that voice to be on its own. It is time for our voice as a white community. So I am going to speak for the white community. I'm going to just say to anybody who is not Black, it is time for our voice to unify with the voice of the Black community and to stand up. Do you know what's not okay? I saw this stat on social media.
You're saying something now. I'm getting all riled up in my seat.
Do you know what's not okay? Is I saw a stat that 30 million people or something like that had posted the Black Square on their Instagram for the Blackout Tuesday, but only 13 million people had signed the petition to bring the people that killed Breonna Taylor to justice. Yeah. That is not good use of your voice. No. And I think for all of us, if when I say we, whoever we is, were to get a look into your life, what would it show that really matters to you?
That's great.
At the end of the day, if I was to go look at your bank account, your credit card swipes, the way that you spend your time, the way that you talk, the books that you're reading, the things that you are putting your time, energy, and effort towards, what would that reflect that what matters to you? And can I ask you a question? Is it going to matter to you enough that all of those things would be reflected beyond of May and June 2020? Is it going to matter beyond that? Is the mattering going to make it to 2021? Is the mattering going to make it to a point? Do you know what has been frustrating me? Is the fact that I have heard people that are older than me say, do you know what? At least it's getting better for your generation. It's better than when I grew up. And you know, it'll get better and better over time. Like, oh man, get me going enough. I'll start that swearing thing I talked about in one of those other pods. But
I've had some good friends say to me, I hope that it's better for our kids, for our sons. Like, I hope that our kids never have to go through this. And it's white guys that have said this to me. And I have actually gotten so frustrated with that statement because there's so much privilege in that statement of like, hey, let's just hope that our sons don't have to deal with this. Well, what you're saying is that you can remove yourself from this scenario. Me as a black man, I don't hope it's better than for my son when my son is 16 years old. So 15 years from now, I hope it's better for me next week.
Absolutely.
I don't want generations down the road to benefit. I hope that this moment we can take such advantage of this moment as a country that every single person can realize the time to act, the time to change, the time to talk, the time to step up is now. So not that my son or the white friend that I have who's telling me, hey, I hope that this is better for my son. No. I don't want our world to be better so that your son can benefit from it. I want our world to be better so that I can stop getting harassed, so that my life can matter. So let's not think 20 years down the road here. Let's think 20 days down the road. How can this get better so that when I go outside 20 days from now, I don't have a cop swerve on the side of the street and say, hey, you fit the description of a criminal. So yeah, that's nice that you want your son to have a cool life, but maybe step up to the plate, white brother, and thank you for your white guilt text, but maybe let's acknowledge the fact that things have to change so that your friend that you're supposedly saying you care about, so that my life can be better in 20 days and not just your son 20 years from now. That is to me, and I didn't plan on going here, but that to me is privilege personified of you are trying to say the right thing, but you can't even remove yourself from how comfortable you and your house is that you're thinking down the road and not thinking about me.
Absolutely. And by the way, can we all be big enough? I love that you're like getting fiery, but like you're also the person that is so nice that like, it's just, you're going to be like, I appreciate it. Thank you. Like,
I acknowledge all steps. Any step in the right direction, I acknowledge it and I congratulate them.
And I also want to say that, like, let's also like not be afraid of saying the wrong thing so much that we don't use our voice. Yeah. But like something hit me, and I'm just going to admit this. I'm just going to say, like, I think it hit me recently that was so much of what I was even feeling tied to the fact that I had close friends in my life that were black.
Yeah.
And was the emotion that I was feeling tied to that and that alone. And I kind of wrestled with that recently. And what I mean by that is, me and you, we have a close group of friends. There's like 8 of us in our group of friends. And you and 2 of our other really close friends are black. I have some, other friends and beyond that, we both do. How
many black friends do you have? Count them right now. I'm kidding.
So dumb. But for me, it was like, I think I started thinking about the pain that my friends and people in my life I was close to. And that's what was hitting me hard.
Yeah.
And I realized something hit me that needs to go so many steps further. My pain can't just be tied to personal relationship alone. My pain has to be tied to seeing other human beings not being treated like they should.
Yeah.
And so for some people, we're just not getting there because for some reason, getting there is tied to somebody close to us experiencing it for us to finally care.
That's great.
Stop waiting for it to get personal and get into your world. Guess what? It exists in the world. So therefore, that should be personal in your world.
Yep.
And I think for me, I have a lot of years left in my life. And
we make fun of, can I just hop on that point of waiting for it to get personal to your world? We make fun of our government for not acting sooner on COVID-19, the coronavirus, because it was happening in China. And we probably should have acted sooner as a country, as leadership in our country. But I know there's a lot of people that have kind of made fun of or joked at or been disappointed in the fact that we were so slow to act as a country because it was so far away.
Yeah.
So we see that and have made fun of that. But I think the same thing is happening right now in our homes, that we feel like it's so far away that we haven't acted and actually made legitimate changes because it hasn't affected us personally.
Yeah. That is a phenomenal analogy. And do you know what sucks is when it finally affects you personally, it is going to be so much harder to solve. And I don't want to say too late, but it feels like it.
Yeah.
Like you use that analogy. The United States is the most, like by far, the worst off country affected by COVID-19.
Yep.
And it's because the writing was on the wall that you should prepare for this and you should address this. But it waited until it hit here. And again, not to make this a political, like
Totally.
Am I going to wait to stand up? Like this is going to sound so like crazy, but am I going to wait to stand up until it's you that's killed?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, hell no.
Yeah.
Like that needs to change. And for some of us, it's like, why would you let it get that far? Start looking at other human beings as yourself. It starts with that.
Yeah.
And it starts with you looking in somebody else's eyes, no matter how different they may look than you, no matter how different their background may look than you, to look in someone else's eyes and go, that's another freaking human being. And I need to care about that person and care about their experience on this earth. And I don't know what it is that caused me to look this way and you to look this way. But at the end of the day, we do.
Yep.
And it is now our decision to choose how we act upon that. And so my question for everybody is, what are you going to do to make this truly matter?
It's great.
Because guess what? It's really easy to make it not matter to you, while it still matters a lot to other people. You can turn it off. You can start unfollowing some people on social media. Man, you could delete your social media. You can just turn it off pretty easily. And that's what's scary.
That's
It's
scary.
how quickly you could turn it off and go away. Do not do that.
I had this thought and I had this crazy thought the other day. And it was kind of sad that it was so crazy, but I said to Carly the other night, I said, just what if George Floyd was the last hashtag? Obviously, he's not the last black man killed at the hands of police. We've already had more since then.
Which is,
And we will continue to have them. But what if he's the last just hashtag? Like I wish that Michael Brown in Ferguson was the last hashtag. But what if we just all stepped up enough as a country and made George Floyd the last hashtag of the last name of a black man or a black person to get killed? And this is, I guess, my optimistic side coming out, but I just still have some hope left in humanity. And I'm seeing what I'm seeing literally happen all throughout the country. In 18 different countries, there's been Black Lives Matter protests. And as painful as this past month and some change has been, as many hard nights going to sleep it's been for me, I'm finding myself right now getting hopeful. And I'm finding myself getting encouraged by so many people that are stepping up saying, you know what, there are things rising to the surface, and acknowledging the fact that I have a part to play no matter their skin color. And I hope that our passion in this episode is contagious. I hope that you hear our hearts. Are we the experts on this?
No.
Absolutely not. There are so many better educational things that you could be listening to, watching all of that. But if there's one thing I want you to hear, I want you to hear our passion. If there's one takeaway I want you to have, I want the takeaway to be is that there are just two guys that this really, really matters to. And maybe you can match our passion. Maybe today you can even ask yourself the question, hey, have I been passionate enough? Do I care about
great
this
question.
enough? Like, and maybe for some of you, if we're being honest, maybe you're a little embarrassed by our passion right now. Like, oh, this really matters to these guys. I maybe need to get there. Maybe you can be encouraged by our passion and get there. Maybe your passion is even higher than us right now. Can I encourage you? Keep going. Keep having conversations. Keep reading. Keep posting. Whatever the part that you're playing is right now, keep going. And I hope to goodness gracious that if anything, you just got the passion bug that just bit you in the butt, because Black lives matter. They need to continue to matter. May this not be a glorified Ferguson, but may this be the thing that we talk about for generations and generations to come that changed our world, not our country, not our legislation, not households, but changed our world. What a time to be alive that we get to be a part of right now, 2020, the craziest year our world has ever seen. And guess what? You and I get to suck air during it. How cool is that? So we like to leave you with an as you leave. I think I just accidentally did it. But Dillon, give us a short and good as you leave, just something for you to think about as we end this podcast today.
So our as you leave, 3 quick practical things, kind of general.
I went to drink, but my glass is empty.
3 quick practical things. Number 1, would you, we're not going to point you to something because we would love for you to do your own research, but would you research an organization that is contributing to the solution in this, contributing towards the value of Black lives, contributing towards, maybe for you, it's towards police reform, maybe it's towards education, maybe it's towards social services. There's a lot of different organizations that are helping. Would you consider not just researching and finding a good organization, but that you would actually support an organization? And maybe even I would say a lot of organizations, they're all smart. They know how technology works. You can set up something to where you can not just give one gift, but give a reoccurring gift. And when I talk about something mattering, it's not just giving once, it's potentially giving again and again and again.
Investment matters. I have a guy I work with who wants to eat at Chipotle every single Friday. You want to know why he wants to eat at Chipotle? Not because their burritos are bomb, but because he has stock in Chipotle. How much stock, you ask? He has a total of $2.
That's hilarious.
Of stock in Chipotle. But his investment into Chipotle makes his finances actually mean something. And so now Chipotle matters to him because of that investment.
Absolutely. That was great. Is that my brother? I'm kidding.
It is not, no. But your brother does love to eat at Chipotle every Friday. Shout out, Jake.
The second thing I would encourage you to do is there something that you can participate in to help educate yourself? So is there a book that you can read? Is there a podcast you can start listening to? Is there just something additional that you can start consuming that you are not already consuming that will help you learn? And by the way, maybe let's do that before we go directly to our Black friends and ask them. And by the way, I have been guilty of that. I'm trying to do what I can to learn and educate myself before I go to Braylon as my encyclopedia.
Here's who you should ask. You should ask a white person that you've seen make progress in this area and ask them. If I can say a very crude term, no one asks a fat person how to work out.
Oh, that's
so but that's real. So maybe don't ask your other white friend who has the exact same views as you or, whatever. Just maybe see someone who you have acknowledged, oh, you have made progress in this area, or your perspective is a little bigger than mine. Maybe ask that person.
That's awesome. And then the third thing we want to throw out there is, what if you had a conversation this week around this topic? Is there somebody, you basically just said it, is there somebody you can go to that feels like they're doing a really good job making this matter in their life, and you can ask them how? Maybe you've never actually voted before. I had someone text me this week and be like, hey, like, I kind of respect, you and was just curious of some thoughts. I'm embarrassed to say this, I haven't really voted much. What are things that you look for when you vote? And we had a really good conversation over text about that. Maybe it's even simple things, but I think those conversations can go a long way. And by the way, if you see an opening and it's happening in our world so much. There's a lot of openings and conversations to have a conversation about this topic. Can I just encourage you to maybe even take advantage of it?
Yeah, the
and
time
have
is now.
A really good conversation. So 3 things: find an organization that you believe in what they're doing and give. Number 2, let's learn something new we haven't been learning. And number 3, let's talk to some people about it. We love you a ton. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully our passion in some way, we just want it to just bleed into your ears and into your eyes.
Hopefully it bit you in the ass. We'll end on that note. We love you. See you next week.
Come on.